Have you ever been told that sitting is your issue and that it's potentially causing you pain? Well, you're not alone in that. Hi, if you're new here, welcome. I'm CJ Schuster, Doctor of Chiropractic. So it's no secret that in today's society and day and age, we all sit way too much, and we all spend way too much time being sedentary. In fact, in 2019, there was a study of Americans with a sample size of about 2,640 between the ages of 20 and 75 that reported an average of 7.1 to 9.4 hours of sitting or sedentary activity per day. So from age 20 to 75, 55 years, that would mean that you will have spent 142,533 hours on the low end to 188,705 hours on the high end of sitting. Now, if we could even break that up a little bit, not only would you increase your overall activity, but you could also mitigate some of those aches and pains you have during or after sitting. And that's why I created the acronym PIT STOP. Now, we'll start with P. P stands for positioning and pressure of the feet. So when sitting, it is important to check your positioning. Look, I'm not here to nag you on your posture. You probably already get a lot of that already. However, it is important that you're just aware that sitting in one place or being in one position for too long can have negative implications to pain or function. A good place to start at is with the feet. Think about how your feet are on the ground and how they are positioned. Are you putting more pressure into one foot and leaning to one side? Or, if you work your way up the kinetic chain, are you spending hours with one leg crossed over the other, hunched over and leaning one way? Are you spending so much time looking down that the junction between your thoracic spine and your cervical spine start to get achy? Now, the I stands for ischial tuberosities. Now, what am I talking about? Well, contrary to popular belief, we actually don't sit on our butts. Rather, we are actually sitting on our ischial tuberosities, or sit bones, as some people appropriately call them. The ischial tuberosity is the origin point for the hamstrings. All of the heads of the hamstring originate from the ischial tuberosity, with the exception of the biceps femoris short head. When you sit, the gluteal muscles actually move superiorly due to the way your pelvis is oriented and due to the origins and insertions of the gluteus maximus. A good thing to ask yourself is, which ischial tuberosity are you putting more pressure on? Then keep asking yourself that over the course of the day, and then over the course of the week, and then start to see if you notice a pattern. Now, T stands for tilting the pelvis forward. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, tilting your pelvis forward, or going into anterior pelvic tilt, is a helpful sitting cue for a couple of reasons. First being that most of the time when we sit for prolonged periods of time in posterior pelvic tilt, which often leads to rounding of the lower back. So if you think about the lumbar spine, your lower back, you have a nice lordotic curvature. When you sit, you take out that curvature. And what that does is that leads to stretching of the tissues at end range for prolonged periods of time. At a certain point, the prolonged stretch of the tissues of the lower back undergo a physiologic process known as creep or creep deformation. This refers to the deformation of viscoelastic tissues, like the muscles, tendons, ligaments, under constant load or stress with time. As a result, we experience stress relaxation, or loaded tissue relaxing into a new length to maintain a fixed deformation and then decreasing the load over time due to the stretching of tissues. Think of a tree branch supporting a load and then deforming. The force needed to keep the tree branch down is decreased with time as the load stays constant. Now, the second reason being, tilting your pelvis forward inherently sits you taller and increases your kinesthetic awareness and proprioception with regards to your ischial tuberosities and tissues of the lower back. So the PIT portion of pit stop I consider to be more postural cues, something just to keep in the back of your head. The stop portion of the acronym I consider to be the more active portion of pit stop, or basically things you can do physically to help with sitting. Now the first letter is S. That stands for standing. Standing is an easy way to break up sitting. Even ascending from the seated position using the legs and posterior chain, much like a squat, can help disrupt the process of creep deformation. T stands for taking a walk. Taking a walk is as ideal as it gets for the tissues of the pelvis, lower back, and legs, as this allows you to move through a greater range of motion compared to just standing. It can also just break up the monotony of sitting in one place. The O stands for opening up. Now, what do I mean by that? Opening up can be done with body weight, foam rollers, or some weights. Some easy drills or exercises include the world's greatest stretch mobility drill. A big emphasis is sinking the hips deeper each time and easing into thoracic rotation. Another great option are seated butterflies, where you are actively trying to push open the hips with your hands or with your legs. And then over time, you start adding weights to help resist the legs. And then you start adding some contractions, some active contractions against the weight. And finally, pullovers. Pullovers can be done with or without weight. And if you don't have access to a bench or something similar, a foam roller under the thoracic spine while trying to actively move the spine about it will do. Now finally we have P, and P stands for play. Play refers to just being generally active outside of the necessary time spent sitting at work or outside of sedentary lifestyle. It's pretty simple. Take walks, lift weights, get some cardiovascular work in. Hopefully this video helps and gives you some ideas or a game plan on how to work with prolonged sitting. Don't overthink it. The more generally active you are, the less likely you're going to have office-related aches and pains. We'll catch you in the next one. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching the video. Would really appreciate it if you liked, subscribed, hit the notification bell, and left a comment down below. And I'll catch you in the next one.